In this video, I'm expanding a little bit on the Trump situation, specifically the video I did in which I explained that the late February, early March period was very dicey due to the Mars-Venus conjunction going through those late degrees of Capricorn, triggering Pluto, opposing his Venus-Saturn conjunction, and Uranus on the other end, and all of that. What's interesting is that right at the entry point of that, Wednesday the 23rd or so, was when we learned that Alvin Bragg's prosecutors had quit, which appeared to be the opposite. It appeared to be really good news for Trump. I explained that by way of where the Sun and Jupiter were at that point. Jupiter is too far past the exact trine to Mercury, but if you put it together with the Sun, you get pretty much a precise trine to that Mercury, which sounds like good news. The thing is, though, the consequence of that event is that we now will get a woman prosecutor. Susan Hoffinger will be taking over. And you may have seen my appearance on Black and Orange Tarot, where we discussed this at length. I'll be making a video on this as well. The summary is that she is unlikely to be good for Trump and Trump's fortunes, and fits a little too neatly with the theme of Eris, the woman warrioress, taking this guy down. Fits better than the two men that quit. Notice that the place or places where he has other problems would be in Georgia through Fannie Willis, that's a woman, and then Letitia James in New York, that's another woman. So now we've got three women that are involved in working to prosecute him. So that's one angle. The other factor, though, and I think this is in a sense more subtle and yet more meaningful, even more meaningful, because concurrent with this period, late February, early March, we have the Ukraine invasion. My feeling about this is that this horrible event, this tragedy, and what is going on because of Vladimir Putin, who is a total thug, just like Trump is a total thug, is why they like each other. Certainly is why Trump likes Putin. Birds of a feather flock together, two vile thugs. This event, I think, is very bad for Trump because it brings into the foreground the reality of his insanity, the reality of his fascism. This guy likes to play games with messaging, and he's always doing supposition thinking, like when in his latest rhetoric he says, well, if I were president, this never would have happened. In actual fact, I'm convinced that if he were president, it would have happened, and he would have totally approved. The way he approved of leaving the Kurds out to dry. He didn't care. He said it's a land dispute. I'm dead certain about that. But he puts out messages like that, expecting people to believe them. Just like he says, hey, Putin is really smart and so on. The problem is now it's all too real. And I think in the longer term, this is going to play against him and his standing in the world and in all kinds of ways. And you don't have to convince everyone in his crazy base. That's not the point. The point is to peel off enough people that it diminishes his power and especially works against him and against the GOP. And I think this event, tragic as it is for Ukraine and for the entire world in many ways and for humanity, it's not good for Trump. It's going to play against him. And in that sense, what happened, therefore, becomes a huge problem for him. And of course, we can add that during this period, concurring with what I had said would probably be a bad moment, was when, near the end of it, early March, it was announced that the committee, the January 6th committee, was essentially concluding that what Trump did around the insurrection was an indictable offense. Now we will see if Merrick Garland acts on it, but certainly that's the statement by the committee, and I can't say that that's good news for Trump. So I would say overall, this period we just experienced, this astrological period with Mars, Venus going through there, triggering his planets, etc., pretty much delivered what would be expected. Now we move into the spring months, and the next major conjunction he's going to be dealing with is the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which is going to happen a few weeks from now, and which will be pretty much precisely square his Sun, close enough to involve his Moon, and which I'm saying is another very, very tricky point for the Orange Menace. No doubt about it.